Welcome back to the Business of Sport.
Welcome back to the Business of Sport. Timmy?
Our next generation of tennis stars are getting the cutting edge on their competitors thanks to a place called the Tennis Lab, and you've been there.
I did. I went down there to Victoria, in Melbourne, I should say, where Victoria University and Tennis Australia have partnered together to stay ahead of the game. It's hosted some of the greatest moments in sport, played out by some of the biggest names on the planet.
There's nothing I can say that can do justice to what we've just seen.
Now, Melbourne Park is embarking on a world-exclusive endeavour, the Tennis Lab, a partnership between Victoria University and Tennis Australia.
It does make sense that there's a cluster of both excellent facilities but excellent minds to really leverage the most out of what we do have here in Melbourne.
It's all about enhancing the performance of our tennis stars by helping reduce injury and accelerate progress, predominantly through the use of the correct racket. The partnership allows PhD students from Victoria University to work on a variety of different projects while utilising the Tennis Australia facilities.
Not only do the students get to answer a significant research question, like all PhD students would, but because it's embedded within industry, you're solving real-world problems.
Molly Connolly is among those students. As part of her PhD, the focus is on lumbar spine injuries in elite junior tennis players.
Part of what I'm doing is looking into biomechanics of the players' movements. I've been able to use my PhD skills looking into how players move and transfer that out onto court with our elite players. Things like how a racket can impact their movement and overall performance has been really valuable.
When the internationals come, they're always looking for a competitive edge. So over the last summer, we had Rafael Nadal practicing out here in the Tennis Lab. A unique experience for our staff and students to really understand what an elite performer is seeking to do while preparing to play one of the biggest matches of his career.
Remarkably, more than 80% of tennis players use rackets that aren't suited to their game. It's a high number in a sport that comes down to such narrow margins.
I've looked at our sport for the last 20 years really and probably lamented the way that we, as coaches, as stakeholders, help players make informed decisions. And in many respects, we needed something new, a different approach. And that's where the partnership with Victoria University became more important. They've got engineers, they've got data scientists, they've got sports scientists that aren't necessarily our bread and butter or on our staff that can inject new expertise into the equation.
It all starts on court, where Hawkeye cameras track the trajectory and speed of balls and record the data against the player and racket types. The lab scientists combine that data with their knowledge of tennis and physics to build a predictive algorithm. The details of each player are analysed, with the system recommending 3 matching rackets.
Players will have their own biases, right? They'll enter the court thinking they know best. But as I mentioned, if there's 200,000 different options to choose from, you can't possibly get through that. So where the lab really helps is from a data-led perspective, able to help players steer in the right direction regarding the best frame for them, the best racket and string combination for them, and away they go.
The Tennis Lab certainly doesn't discriminate, sampling a wide variety of players from unfit journalists to the rising stars of the game. The virtual reality technology transports those in the testing zone to a match simulation on Rod Laver Arena.
The timing of the ball and everything, right swing, felt like the right power was in, go deep, go short. Had to move a fair bit out wide. Yeah, so it's pretty real. It saves me having to do tests, give them my preferences. They just know what I like, and every time I give a racket to them, I can trust them that they'll make it the same as my other ones.
Even our own Grand Slam stars in Dylan Alcott and Sam Stosur are utilising the Tennis Lab.
For her, someone who's used the same racket for 10 years, you would expect when she jumps out on court not to see a real big difference, right? But the very first racket we gave her, we found 5% increase in ball speed and almost a 10% increase in ball spin. So you could imagine her reaction when she's just come from playing with a racket for 10 years and all of a sudden she's seeing some significant improvements.
That's what this Tennis Lab does. You would, I imagine, have people coming to you saying, I want the Williams, I want the Novak, I want the Federer. but they get out there and they're none of those.
Yeah, well, that's part of the process here. So for us, we actually black out our rackets so the players don't know exactly what they're using. So it's part of that process of removing the bias from this is a Roger racket, this is a Rafa racket. So the whole concept for us is about getting the right racket in your hand, independent of who's using it, independent of the brand. It's all about getting the best equipment for your game. We're the number 2 organised sport in the country. We've got 80 million players around the world. So it's a significant undertaking. And we've got a great opportunity to really push technology forward and have our players at all levels, amateur right the way through to professional, to benefit.
I love it. What an initiative, Victoria University and Tennis Australia there. And look, I suppose the thing that stands out from that story is Julie, yourself, former junior Wimbledon player.
Clearly no talent at all.
Oh, come off it. I thought you had the reflexes of a panther. Can we have a... There it is, with a turtleneck and all.
I wasn't given the heads up that I was doing this, but truly...
Now, what was it like? Okay,
genuinely, it was very, very real. You are basically, you feel like you are in Rod Laver Arena. You have the crowd, you have the chair umpires, you have aircrafts flying overhead. You feel like you are immersed in that environment. And look, typically when the pros put it on, it's a little bit more impressive. But at the end of it, they would test that racket, if it was me, and see how the most suitable racket for me. And it was just so interesting to hold the different weighted rackets. So Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, Serena Williams, Sam Stosur, to feel the difference and what a difference it makes. You know, 5 to 10% for Sam Stosur after that first racket change. So they're onto something down there.
100%, and a good story. Well done. And happy birthday for yesterday, by the way.
Thanks.
You don't turn 21 every day, do you, Julie?
I'm clearly not getting better with age when it comes to sport.
Please. Imagine if that was me. I would have knocked that thing on my head and fallen over. That's what would have happened. And, of course, Wimbledon next week, the Ash Barty party just rolls onto Wimbledon. Number 1 in the world. We've got a real big, deep look at Wimbledon next week right here on The Business of Sport.
Does she have a tough draw?
She has a pretty tough draw, yeah. She's got a number of former number 1s, including Svetlana Kuznetsova and Garbine Muguruza. But I just think that she's in that kind of form, Ash Barty, where I'd back her in. She had that problem with her wrist. I would expect she'll be fine by the time it all starts. And what a fantastic tennis player. What a wonderful young Australian, and someone for young women to look up to.
Yeah, absolutely. What a remarkable performance that'd be if the Ash Barty party rolls on.
Yeah, see if you can get enough strawberries and cream to wash that down with at the Ash Barty party.
All right, stay with us. Do not go anywhere. Coming up next, we're crossing live to all the action at the Wheelchair Rugby National Championships.
You're watching The Business of Sport.